to Perspective, an on-topic episode. I'm Simon.
And I'm Greg.
And together we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. Today we're talking to Esme Whiteside on allyship and whether it's good enough to be a silent ally in 2025. Hi Esme, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. That was really weird to hear you say in 2025.
I know.
I'm
not there yet. I'm not there.
Yeah, it was quite bizarre. How have you been? It's what's the date? It's the 7th of January, just as of recording. What have you been up to so far?
It's been quite busy actually. I was just saying to Greg, so I had a couple of weddings at the back end of the year. I had one on New Year's Eve. But then I started again on the 5th of January. I had a little wedding down in London.
Cool.
Yeah. And then tomorrow I am at the Giraffe Shed doing a styled shoot because they want to pivot a little bit more into elopements. And then I am down at DragCon for the weekend from Thursday. So a flying start to January.
Holy shit. All right. Nice.
Yeah.
I suppose it's still the tax year, right? So these profits go into last year's books. Are you good with managing your books and all that kind of stuff and tax years and VAT and?
Yeah. You know what I do? I do it all in April when it finishes. Oh my God, that's my cat playing with the laptop. She's like behind it going like that. Yeah, I do everything when the year finishes in April and submit it straight then. So I've already paid my tax for this year because I like doing it early so I'm not like stressing in January when I'm skint. So yeah, that's all done.
Yeah.
Well done.
Cool. Well done. Yes. Okay, so we're talking allyship on this little on-topic episode. Just for people who are new to the podcast, we usually do 2.5 hour conversations with new guests. But Greg and I felt that was quite a lot, and it was we were kind of missing the opportunity to talk about hotter topics and topics that we're passionate about in particular. So we're not always going to have a guest. Sometimes it's just going to be Greg and I talking. But the on-topic episodes are specifically one topic, maybe a guest, and we're going to be covering that one topic just for shits and giggles.
Less tangents, maybe?
Less tangents, yeah. Well,
We'll see.
I'm still here, so we'll see. When this topic came to mind, it was last year, and we were speaking to our friend Rhiannon, and she had an image that kind of went viral, and it got a lot of hate, mainly because it was two trans individuals who got married, and they were walking up the aisle, and the amount of hate is it drew my attention. It was shocking. To be honest, like there seems to be a lot of hate in the world right now, and whenever when we decided to do these topics, that topic was at the forefront of my mind, and your name alongside that, which is why I just had to get you on to talk about it, because obviously you're part of the LGBTQ plus community, and so I thought you'd be the perfect individual to talk to two white cis guys on a podcast. So yeah. Allyship. Do you think it's good enough to be silent in 2025? Or do we need to step up and do better?
Yeah, I don't know if allyship is silent. Actually, I don't know if you can really call yourself an ally whilst also being silent. I think for some people, sorry, my cat is playing with this right now, and to avoid her running across the laptop, I'll just be periodically throwing that for her.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I think allyship means different things to different people, and for some people, being an ally to them is actually what I would call just being a baseline decent human. Allyship to me is not just being accepting of LGBTQ people. Ally is actively having a voice in defending and educating people. Because I think, saying, oh, I work with everyone, I accept gay couples, that's just being a decent human to me.
Yeah.
Yes, although there are plenty of decent people who, well, self-confessed decent people who align themselves with more right-wing ideology. Now, I don't want to. I mean, I was going to say I don't want this to be too political, but in actual fact, it has a natural tendency to be a political issue.
Yeah.
It is inherently political.
Yeah. I want to hear from your perspective, though, like what does that community mean to you as someone who is obviously who identifies the way that you do? Obviously, that's your story to tell. Yeah, how like is that important to you, or is it just something that you kind of felt, well, it might be important to others, so I'm going to lend my voice to it? Like,
Being an ally or politics, sorry.
to be honest, your personal views on the community.
Oh, okay. So that's such a broad question. I feel like I haven't been out and part of the community for my whole life. Probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I came out, if you will. Before that, I was a very staunch ally, and it was really important to me, actually. That probably should have been a marker that I wasn't just an ally. Like, it was so important to me. I should have probably thought maybe I am actually not straight. And it was really important to me. And as I have become a part of the community, it's kind of not become less important, but it's kind of become more of like, well, this doesn't feel like my role. I think people from outside of the community, it's kind of more their role to speak up a little bit more, because for gay people, we live that every day. We don't necessarily always want to be reminded about the hate and things in the world, and sometimes we just can't really be bothered talking about it or having opinions on it. Obviously, that's not the purpose of today. I am here to specifically talk about it. But I think sometimes allies need to step up a little bit more, because we have the kind of lived trauma of going through that, and people that aren't part of the community don't.
Yeah. Well, if someone is listening to this and going, "Oh crap, that's me. Like I thought I was an ally, but I'm clearly not, because I'm not stepping up." What practical steps could they take in their business to become an ally? Like, what can they do to be more inclusive with their business?
I don't want anyone to feel like guilty or lectured or anything like this. Like this, I want this conversation to be a total kind of safe space for everyone and anyone listening. And it's also important to note that I'm not an educator. I'm not a monolith. I don't speak for every gay person. This is just my kind of views on everything as a gay person within the industry. So if you're listening and you're thinking, oh shit, that's me, I don't do these things, don't feel guilty or bad about yourself. I don't want to shame anyone. I want to help people who feel like they want to be allies. So if you are listening and you think, oh, I'm not doing enough, a few things that you could do. So when you spoke about Rhiannon's post there and the hate that she got, kind of supporting her in that. I wouldn't necessarily say responding back to hate is a good thing, because trolls, they feed off of that. But posting a positive comment amidst all of that hate, kind of supporting the person who has posted that, sending them a message, making sure that you have queer couples on your website, on your Instagram, and if you haven't, going to workshops or doing styled shoots where you can showcase queer couples, making sure that you show your pronouns, asking people for their pronouns. It's not always really, really big things that you need to do. It's just small things that can signal that you are an ally and you are inclusive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sorry, I had a brain fart there, but I shan't go down that road. All right,
I don't want to know what it was now.
What? So, I mean, is that all it takes? Because it seems too easy.
No, there's definitely nuance to that. Obviously, me and Rebecca did a lot of styled shoot modeling. And some of the experiences there were really great, and some of them were really strange and not so great. And I think it really depended on how committed to being inclusive the people were that were involved in the shoot. So sometimes we came to shoots and the stationery had like straight couples' names on. And I'd be like, oh, that's a bit weird. And then the photographer would be like, yeah, they refused to put two women's names on the stationery because it wouldn't be as marketable for their own businesses. So it's just things like that. If that were me organising that shoot and the stationer said that to me, I would have got someone else, because we've got a gay couple. It one, makes no sense to have straight names on the stationery, and two, that's not an attitude that I would want associated with a shoot where there's a gay couple modelling. So I think in that situation, being a committed ally would be to say, look, you either need to put a gay couple's name on this stationery, or I'm going to work with someone else because I don't think that this is appropriate.
Yeah. And when it comes to like a photographer marketing that material to try and attract more of that community to their work, what if they were to feel like as if they were almost using that content? Is that an actual problem that exists, or is that just in their own mind?
Yeah, no, that is that's what you'd call tokenism, where, so you mean where it feels like they're just using the content and not necessarily engaging with the community or being an ally. They're just so that's called tokenism. So I think to avoid that, so we're kind of talking in the realms of styled shoots here, really. I think to avoid that, you kind of make sure that you are being inclusive and committed to being an ally, and not just doing one styled shoot, putting that out there, saying, yeah, I'm a diverse wedding supplier, and kind of just relying on that one piece of content that is kind of tokenistic, or say asking a gay couple to model but not paying them for their time, asking a gay couple to model and then saying, oh, but you absolutely must have to wear these specific outfits, even though, they're absolutely nothing like either of your personal style. It's kind of, you'd never want to assume or put people in certain boxes. And what I see quite a lot with style shoots as well, actually, is, in the Facebook groups where people will organise style shoots, they'll put a post on and they'll be like, hi everyone, I am organising an LGBTQ plus shoot. And that is like the theme of the shoot. And that to me is quite problematic because
Yeah.
we're people, we're not themes. Like normally the theme of a style shoot might be like a summer wedding or something like that. My identity isn't like a theme for the shoot. I think a better way to go about it is have an actual theme or color palette or whatever kind of shoot that you want to do, and then
Yeah.
just saying I want to work with an LGBTQ plus couple. Saying, oh, I want to do like a gay pride shoot or whatever, that is kind of quite tokenistic.
Yeah.
It's we've had conversations in the past, quite a lot actually on this podcast about showing representation, whether that be from the LGBTQ plus community or if it's like showing black couples, and that point often goes through my head, especially like I'm quite often looking at our Instagram going, oh, it's just so many white people. And I get disheartened, but I have this conversation with other people and they're like, well, 5%, like I don't know percentages or whatever, but we don't have a very diverse community in Glasgow.
Yeah.
And we only do like 15, 20 weddings a year. And it's just like first come, first serve. So it does look like we just like white people. And that's crazy to me. But it's just the way it's turned out. And I often think I need to show more of other people, other communities, because I believe in other communities and having a space for those individuals and different communities and different voices. But at the same time, that kind of tokenism pops up in my mind. So is there like a balance that we should be thinking about, do you think? Or I mean, is it okay to not have a diverse portfolio, which when I'm saying makes me sound like it just does not sound right to me. Like I feel like I'm verging on the realms of like being completely offensive, but I can't help who books us. But then can I? But then if I try to go like token is, so it's like a big circle in my head around my beliefs as a person and what I show in my business. I don't know. Does anyone else think that way? Does anyone else think this deeply about these topics, or is it just me? I don't know.
No,
I'm just very aware. I'm very aware that I'm a cis white guy here. And not as many cis white guys should have podcasts, and I know that, but I do. So, you know what I mean? Like,
I think you are obviously very aware of your privilege here and you're thinking about everything. And I think being aware of that and questioning everything like that is kind of, one of the first steps. But the thing is that it isn't easy, and there's no kind of like, this is the, objective answer. Everyone's going to have different opinions on it. And I think my answer is all you can do is try. And if you genuinely, hand on heart, know that you are trying, then that is the best that you can do sometimes. I'm very aware of that. I have quite a lot of gay couples in my portfolio. I work with a lot of real gay couples. I don't work with that many couples from different ethnic backgrounds. So when I am planning styled shoots, that is something that I try to consider. And I don't think like I've just said, I don't like it when people say, oh, I'm going to organise an LGBTQ shoot. So I don't go, oh, I want to organise a black shoot. I think about whatever shoots I'm already organising, whatever ideas I've got up at whatever venues. And I just think, right, in the first instance, I am going to try and look for a couple that is not straight, white and blonde. There's enough of that in the wedding industry. I'm going to make sure that I have exhausted every opportunity to try and find a couple that is not those things. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. Like I've got a shoot tomorrow at the Giraffe Shed. That is in the arse end of nowhere in the middle of Wales. there's not a diverse community there. The venue owner had a budget that she wanted to stick to when finding models. And the thing is, with people from more diverse communities, they're not normally in the middle of nowhere. They might be in London, which means a hell of a lot more money, a hell of a lot more logistics and planning to get people to these places. So depending on where you are, it's really not easy, and it takes a lot more kind of thought. It takes a lot more money in some cases. Whereas if I was doing a shoot in, say, London, I probably would have got, a more diverse couple really easily. But for this shoot, I'm not, so it hasn't happened. But I know that I tried, so I am personally satisfied with that situation. But it just makes me think, right, for whatever I do next, I really can't just need to try. I need to get, a couple that isn't just straight white blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have you felt any hatred towards any of the imagery that you post online, or like how prevalent is it?
It really depends on how much traction something gets. What I notice more than anything is the subtle hate. So what I notice is people will unfollow me after I've posted stuff like that. I have occasionally got hate comments. What I tend to do is just delete them, especially if it's a real couple, because I don't want them to see that and have any negative thoughts
Yeah.
associated with their wedding day.
Yeah.
There was one image that I posted of a couple from a style shoot that I'm really good friends with. They're called Jay and Sam. So they're two guys with really long hair, and they are quite feminine sometimes. So they wanted to do a shoot where both of them were wearing wedding dresses. So we did that, and it was amazing. And that image got quite a lot of negativity. And at the time, I kind of made an example of that. But that was only because I know Jay and Sam really well, and they had also seen the comments and they wanted to kind of highlight it and talk about it. But if they were a
Right.
real couple, I would have handled that very differently. I'd say if an image goes viral, it's more likely you are going to get kind of negative comments on it. If it's just staying within your own audience, unless you've got kind of nasty people within that audience, I'd say you probably won't get
Yeah.
kind of negative stuff on it. But what I do notice quite a lot of is unfollowing. Tonight, actually, I posted something about. I don't know if you've seen or familiar with the Vivienne from Drag Race season 1.
Not sure.
No.
Is this the-
Okay, so she.
Sorry, there was a member of the. I'm not sure of the judges or the cast that died recently. Was this
Yes.
individual?
Yeah. So the Vivienne won Drag Race season 1 UK, and she died recently. And since then, all of the news outlets, whatever, that have posted about it, the comments have been horrendous, like vile, like people saying good riddance and, things like that. But like in droves, like so much of it. And I reshared a post last night about that, and I probably had about 20 people instantly unfollow me.
Wow.
Jesus, man.
Yeah, but the Vivienne had kind of made it mainstream. So she won the first season of Drag Race, but then she'd done quite a lot of other stuff. She did Dancing on Ice. She did Blankety Blank over Christmas. So she was kind of
Okay.
at the peak of her career. So it's kind of mainstream news outlets that are reporting on it. But yeah, those comments were just horrific. And it does feel sometimes like we're going back in time when it comes to these kind of issues.
Yeah.
Like, I know you said you didn't really want to bring up politics too much, but it is inherently political. When you think about America,
Yeah.
and it's like, 5 years ago, the attitudes that people have now, it wouldn't have been acceptable, whereas now it's kind of a lot more normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about then? So we're talking about like online sort of feedback and pushback and stuff. What about in-person stuff or like client stuff? So if someone was inquiring but was giving you indications that they maybe didn't align with your sort of views, or if someone at a wedding made a comment or something, how do you deal with that? And then how could an ally deal with that in a good way?
Sorry, my cats have just decided that right now is the perfect time to have a row.
Of course.
Yeah, of course. I think for me, if someone inquired and they had got through all of my social media, they'd got through my about page and seen, I say that I am gay, that I'm engaged to a woman. If they got through all of that and still inquired and it seemed like they maybe weren't my client, for me, it doesn't matter if I've got no work at all that year. I'm not available. It's not worth it.
Yep.
It's not worth putting myself in that situation. It's not worth kind of putting my beliefs and principles aside to work with them. So for me, that's kind of, that's the answer on that. In terms of if I heard comments or something on the day, it's really hard because it depends on who that comment's come from. I suppose for me, it wouldn't be my couple because I wouldn't have chosen to work with them if I thought that they would do things like that. To be honest, I probably would just ignore it unless it was something, kind of directed towards me that I needed to respond to, but I would probably just ignore it, honestly. And I think it's hard to ask for something different than that from an ally in that situation because of the nature of our work and it being someone's wedding day.
Yeah.
You just don't want to have a row with anyone on someone's wedding day when you're there in a hired capacity.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really difficult situation. I mean, and in an ideal world, it's easy for me to say, oh, you should stand up to them and say something. But I think on someone's wedding day, you just don't want to be that person. And it does depend what it is, obviously, as well. But I would say it is easier, but maybe more important to have a voice online prior to getting into those situations on a wedding day to ensure that you're maybe not going to be working with people that would have people around them with those kinds of views.
Yeah.
Yes, because they can sneak into your bookings, as what recently happened last year.
Oh no!
When we're like, and this is kind of what brought this topic to the forefront of my mind recently, and making me think that obviously we didn't have enough of a voice, that people, didn't recognize that, or I don't know, maybe it was just a case of like, maybe they did, but they didn't bother. Anyway, we were in the preps, and it was an older couple, and they seemed lovely. They were lovely, just normal people, Americans. And then you were talking about beliefs and stuff, and then he was talking about, except for what they're teaching those kids in school. And it was very, there wasn't much more to it than that, but it was very much aimed towards the anti-trans education.
Yeah, you knew what they meant.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, the whole day I was just like, I don't want to be here. Which is a shame, because obviously I don't want to feel that way about clients, but at the same time, what a view to have, man. What a view to have. Anyway.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It's really difficult. And that's what I think sometimes about, I mentioned people unfollowing me. I don't really care about the amount of followers that I've got. It's not that. It obviously just signals like, oh, this is something that offends people so much that they feel like they have to follow me.
Yeah.
Um, and, you know, that's not a nice thing to realize, but also it's kind of like, okay, well, good, because I didn't want them in my audience anyway. It's kind
Yeah.
of them filtering themselves out.
Yes.
And I
yes.
guess that's what most of our marketing is. It's trying to scare away the couples you don't want, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know, yeah. Back in the day where you thought, oh, I just need to get bookings so you cast as wide as net as possible. And I was just like,
Yeah.
I don't want some of those fish. They can get fucked. Like, just,
Yeah.
Are there any like online resources or places of information that people can go to sort of gain more information on this topic?
Yeah, so a really good one actually is so Steph and Els are a photography and videographer couple. They run Rebel Love. So that's their photography and videography name, but they also run Rebel Love Directory.
Right.
So it's an online directory primarily for couples. But they also have resources for suppliers as well.
yeah.
They're really, really good. And I think they're actually launching an education sector of that as well, aimed at suppliers. I would recommend them. I know Stephanie Dreams Photography. She runs workshops, which are just they have only LGBTQ plus couples modelling, and I think she has an education portion of those workshops as well. Obviously, I run workshops too, but they aren't specifically just LGBTQ couples.
Yeah.
More often than not, they will be, but there's straight couples and everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. This is the first time I've heard about these Rebel Love. It looks cool. They've got podcasts. That's cool. So if you're
Oh, I actually didn't realise they had one.
Yeah. They're on episode 5, so they're pretty new.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, go and support them. I don't know if it's any good. If it's not good, I'm sorry, but some voices are worth supporting. Yeah, that's cool. Thank you very much for those resources.
Yeah. We'll link them in the show notes as well.
Yes, we will. And
Yeah.
Stephanie Dreams, cool. Also another name that I have not heard, but this is cool.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes it is. Hang on, I know this person. They're on TikTok.
I think
Stephanie.
so, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I totally do know them. Never mind. I'm a big fan of their content on TikTok.
cool.
And they're really cool. Man, I'm terrible with names. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so go and support those sources of education and give yourself a wee read and educate yourself on this topic. And I mentioned Rhiannon's post earlier. That is Rhiannon Neal. Actually, Loudon. This is what I was double
Rhiannon
checking.
Loudon's the photography name.
Rhiannon Loudon is the photographer name. So yes, but she's also Rhiannon Neal. The whole name changing thing. Damn you, weddings! It's so confusing. RhiannonNeal.com. If you want to check out her work as another ally, please do so. In fact, I want to get Rhiannon on the podcast at some point because, well, we were hanging out with her at Christmas dinner, We Fell in Love Christmas dinner, and yeah, she was good chat. Good chat. Yeah. So yeah, Anything else, Greg? Anything else that we need to talk about or mention, or?
I mean, I was about to say that covers it, but I don't think it covers it. There's loads more we could talk about, I'm sure, but I think for an on-topic episode, try to keep them shorter. I think that's enough for people to get their teeth into just now.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, if you like, so when I had that pause earlier in the episode, I was going down. I was thinking about tokenism, and that was my train of thought, just in case anyone was interested in where the hell he was going. But I got myself scared. I got myself scared on this topic, and because obviously I'm very aware. I have a very strong feminist wife. I'm very supportive of women's rights and being who you want to be, and like have read the science on gender and all that kind of stuff. Yet there's still people who are, I don't know. You get nervous talking about.
I
these
think all that
deep,
indicates though that being an ally is true to us.
Yeah,
it's just as long as you're putting that out there in the public space, like yeah, it won't come across as tokenism.
I think it's just about having open, honest conversations and not assuming anything about anyone. And that's the thing as well. Like when you are marketing to people and when you have couples inquiring and when you see couples online, you might be assuming what their identities are, but you don't know. You don't know just from looking at a couple whether they're a straight couple or whether they're a trans couple or whether they're non-binary. Like you have no idea. And I think that's the thing sometimes is people try and put us in little boxes based on how we look or how we present. But that really just isn't representative of how LGBTQ couples actually are. Like I think people definitely have an idea in their mind of how a lesbian should look, and that isn't what I look like. So people, I have to come out to people every single day, which is a privilege in some ways because, when I'm working at a wedding, no one is ever going to assume that I am gay. They'll just assume that I'm straight. And that means that if there are people with views that aren't so nice there, I am kept safe from that because they're not going to assume that I'm gay. But it does also mean that I have to come out to literally everyone.
Yeah. I came across this concept recently that I had never heard of. It was called straight washing. And do you have any thoughts on that? Do you even know what it is? I don't.
Yeah, straight washing. I mean, I suppose it'd be like the concept of comp het. In that like everything is just kind of automatically straight, and then when there is like gay representation, like I feel like that's why there's so much hatred around, because there's a lot more gay representation. People are like, oh, the world's gone mad, blah 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 blah, and because they see more of this that they don't like, they're all going fucking crazy. But I feel like if there was just a lot more gay representation, I think I would have realized sooner. I feel like a lot of people probably would have. I just didn't. I didn't realize that. When I was younger, I didn't realize that lesbians weren't all butch women. I didn't. I just didn't know because I hadn't ever seen it. Because all of the media that I consumed growing up was straight, and I kind of, if there was gay media, it was gay men, and I was kind of really comfortable with that idea. That was cool, but there wasn't a lot of lesbian representation until kind of recently. Like this past year has definitely felt like a lesbian renaissance in popular culture. Like everyone's a lesbian now, and that's brilliant. But there wasn't that when I was younger, and there was a lot of straight washing, I suppose.
Yeah. I know we could literally keep this topic going, but I shan't.
We could go forever.
I do want to mention a charity though, an Edinburgh-based charity that my friend works for. It's called Mermaid or Mermaids UK. They support trans and non-binary and gender diverse kids, especially going through questions and essentially growing up. So yeah, in case anyone wants to support a charity, mermaids.org, right? mermaidsuk.org.uk is their website. So yeah, always a charity that I like to push for and think about when this topic comes up. But yeah. Anyway, Esme, thank you very much for coming on and being on an on-topic conversation. Do I have an outro for this yet? people can support? Well, where can people support you? 'Cause obviously, you've been on the podcast before, but where can people find you in your work?
Esme Whiteside Photography.
On Instagram and
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook,
Nice.
if you're doing that. I'm not.
And people can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram is at perspectivebycinemate. Or if you want to see our work, it's just Cinemate Films. We hope you have loved this conversation. And if you have, you can hit subscribe on our YouTube over at Perspective by Cinemate or wherever you get your podcasts. And hopefully we'll see you in the next one. However,
In the meantime,
enjoy your life.